Tai-Ho Kim was having a normal day. He woke up at 6:30 a.m., just like every weekday. He showered, brushed his teeth, and put on his blue work shirt and black pants. He ate a simple breakfast of rice, soup, and kimchi. Then he walked to the train station. Everything was normal. At 28 years old, Tai-Ho lived alone in a small apartment in Seoul. He worked as an engineer at a company that made parts for airplanes. His job was good. The pay was decent. His life was quiet. Some might say boring, but Tai-Ho liked it that way. At work, Tai-Ho sat at his desk and opened his computer. He looked at the airplane wing design he had been working on all week. Something about it was not quite right. His boss had told him to follow the standard design, but Tai-Ho kept changing small things. He couldn't explain why. It just felt like it should be different. "Kim, do you have those reports ready?" his boss called from across the room. "Almost done, sir," Tai-Ho answered. He quickly saved his work and switched to the reports. The day went by slowly. At 6:00 p.m., Tai-Ho packed up his things and headed home. He stopped at a small market to buy food for dinner. He bought ramen, some vegetables, and a can of beer. When he got home, he put his groceries away and turned on his TV. A show about space was on. Tai-Ho liked space shows. He watched as the narrator talked about distant galaxies and stars that were millions of light years away. What would it be like to visit those places? Tai-Ho wondered as he ate his ramen. He often thought about space. Even as a child, he had looked up at the stars and felt a strange pull, like they were calling to him. After dinner, Tai-Ho took a shower and got ready for bed. It was only 9:30 p.m., but he was tired. He turned off the lights and lay down. Through his window, he could see a few stars in the night sky. Seoul had too much light to see many stars, but Tai-Ho could make out a few bright ones. He was almost asleep when it happened. First, there was a soft humming sound. Tai-Ho thought it was coming from his refrigerator or maybe a neighbor's apartment, but the sound grew louder. Then his room began to glow with a strange blue light. Tai-Ho sat up in bed. "What is that?" he said out loud. The blue light got brighter and brighter until it was hard to see. The humming sound was now so loud that Tai-Ho had to cover his ears. Then, without warning, he felt his body become light. He looked down and saw that his feet were no longer touching the bed. He was floating in the air. "Help!" he shouted, but no one could hear him. The ceiling of his apartment seemed to disappear, and he kept floating up and up. The last thing he saw was the roof of his building getting smaller below him. Then everything went dark. When Tai-Ho opened his eyes, he was lying on a smooth, cold surface. The room was dim, with only a soft purple light coming from the walls. He sat up slowly and looked around. He was in a large room with high ceilings. The walls were made of a strange metal that seemed to shift and move, like water but solid. There were no windows, but Tai-Ho could see what looked like stars swirling in patterns on the ceiling. "Hello," he called out. His voice echoed in the empty room. A door that Tai-Ho hadn't noticed before slid open. Two tall figures walked in. Tai-Ho's eyes went wide. They were not human. The beings were at least 7 feet tall with thin bodies and long arms. Their skin was pale blue and seemed to shimmer in the light. They had no hair. Their faces had 2 large eyes that were all black, no white parts at all. They had small noses and mouths. They wore simple white clothes that covered most of their bodies. Tai-Ho backed away until he hit a wall. What are you?" he asked, his voice shaking. The 2 beings looked at each other. Then one of them spoke. Its mouth didn't move much, but Tai-Ho heard words in his head. "Do not be afraid, human. You are safe. We have brought you here to meet our queen." Tai-Ho couldn't believe what was happening. Aliens, real aliens, and they had taken him from his home. "Where am I? What is this place?" he asked. "You are on our ship," the alien said. "We are in orbit around your planet. In space." Tai-Ho looked up at the ceiling again. Those weren't patterns, they were actual stars. He was seeing space through some kind of screen or window in the ceiling. "Please come with us," the second alien said. "Our queen is waiting." Taiho didn't see that he had much choice. He was in space, on an alien ship. He couldn't exactly run away. So he nodded and followed the two aliens as they walked toward the door. The hallway outside was similar to the room, with the same shifting metal walls and soft purple light. They walked for what seemed like a long time, turning down different hallways and passing through several doors. Taiho tried to remember the way, but it was too confusing. Finally, they reached a large door. It was different from the others, covered in strange symbols that glowed with a soft blue light. "Wait here," one of the aliens said. It pressed its hand against one of the symbols. The door slid open, and the two aliens went inside, leaving Taiho in the hallway. After a few minutes, the door opened again. "Enter," a voice said in his head. This voice was different from the others. It was stronger, clearer, and somehow more beautiful. Taiho took a deep breath and stepped through the door. The room beyond was massive. It was round with the same shifting metal walls as the rest of the ship, but this room had large windows all around, showing the blackness of space and the distant stars. At the center of the room was a raised platform, and on that platform was a throne. On the throne sat the most beautiful and terrifying being Taiho had ever seen. She was clearly female, though not human. She was taller than the other aliens, maybe 8 or 9 feet tall. Her skin was a deeper blue, almost purple in places, and it shimmered with a light that seemed to come from within. She had 4 arms instead of 2. Her face was more human-like than the others, with high cheekbones and full lips. But her eyes were the most striking thing about her. They were large, all black, and seemed to contain stars within them. She wore a long, flowing dress made of a material that looked like liquid silver. On her head was a crown of crystal-like structures that grew right out of her skin. Taiho stood frozen, unable to move or speak. The queen rose from her throne and stepped down from the platform. She walked toward Taiho with a grace that made her seem like she was floating. She stopped a few feet away from him and looked down at him with those star-filled eyes. "Taiho Kim," she said, her voice in his head clear and musical. "Do you know why you are here?" Taiho shook his head, still unable to speak. "You are special, Taiho Kim. Among all the humans on your planet, you are unique. Your mind works differently. You see things that others do not." Taiho found his voice at last. "I don't understand. I'm just an engineer. I'm nobody special." The queen smiled. It was a strange sight on her alien face, but somehow familiar too. "Those changes you make to your designs, the ones your boss doesn't understand, those aren't mistakes, Taiho. They are glimpses of knowledge that your species won't discover for 1,000 years. Taiho's eyes widened. "How do you know about that?" "We have been watching you. We have been searching for someone like you for a very long time." The queen took another step closer. Taiho wanted to back away, but he couldn't move. He was not scared anymore. Instead, he felt a strange pull toward this alien being, like the pull he had always felt toward the stars. Then the queen did something that shocked Taiho to his core. She bent down and wrapped all 4 of her arms around him in a hug. Her body was warm, and she smelled like flowers that don't exist on Earth. She leaned close to his ear and whispered in perfect Korean, "I finally found you, my human." The alien queen hugged me and whispered, "I finally found you, my human." Taiho's heart beat fast as the queen let go of him. Her 4 arms moved back slowly. He could still feel the warmth where she had touched him. "Please sit," the queen said, pointing to a small chair that rose from the floor. Taiho sat down, his legs feeling weak. "My name is Nera," the queen said. "I am the leader of the Stell people." "Why am I here?" Taiho asked. His voice was small in the large room. Nera walked to one of the big windows. She looked out at the stars. "Our world is dying, Taiho. Not just our planet, but our whole way of life. She waved one of her hands. The air in front of them lit up with pictures. Taiho saw a beautiful planet with 3 moons. The planet was mostly blue, like Earth, but with patches of purple and gold. "This is our home, Stel 6, Nera said. "For 10,000 years, we built a great society there. We learned to travel among the stars. We made friends with other beings from many worlds." The picture changed. Now the planet looked sick. Large parts of it were black. The blue was fading. 200 years ago, a disease began to spread, Nera said. "It affects the mind. It makes our people forget who they are. They become like empty shells. We have lost half our people to this sickness." Taiho watched as the pictures showed Stel people lying in beds, their eyes open but empty. "Our best scientists tried to find a cure," Nera continued, "but they failed. Then, last year, we found something strange." The picture changed again. Now it showed Earth. "We were studying your planet for other reasons when we found that humans have something we don't," Nera said. "Your brains work differently from ours." Taiho frowned. "Different how?" "We Stel are very good at logic and facts. We can do math in our heads that your best computers would struggle with. But we cannot imagine." "Imagine," Taiho repeated. "Yes, we cannot think of things that don't exist. We cannot make up stories. We cannot dream when we sleep. Everything we think is based on what we know for sure." Taiho was surprised. "But how do you create new things? How do you make art?" Nera's face showed sadness. "We copy what we see. We can make beautiful things, but they are always based on real things. We have never made anything truly new." She came closer to Taiho. "But humans can. You think of things that have never been. You dream of worlds that don't exist. You write stories about people who never lived." Taiho nodded slowly. "I guess we do." "And you, Taiho Kim, do something even more special," Nera said. "You mix logic with imagination. When you change those airplane designs, you are imagining how physics could work differently. You are dreaming about science." Taiho thought about this. It was true that when he changed the designs, he wasn't following any rule he had learned. He just felt that they should be different. "We believe that human imagination might be the key to curing our disease," Nera said. "And your special mind, which balances facts and dreams, might be the best chance we have." Taiho stood up. "This was too much. I'm not special. I'm just a normal guy who's good at math. I can't cure alien diseases." Nera put one of her hands on his shoulder. "We don't expect you to do it alone. Our scientists will work with you, but we need your human way of thinking. We need someone who can imagine new answers." Taiho looked into her star-filled eyes. "Why did you say my human when you hugged me?" Nera's skin changed color slightly, becoming more purple. Taiho realized she was embarrassed. "There is an old story among my people," she said. "It tells of a time when the Stel will face a great danger. The story says that salvation will come from a being from a distant world, a being who sees with different eyes. The story calls this being the human one." She looked away. "I never believed this story until we discovered Earth and learned about humans. Then I began to wonder if the old story was true." Taiho shook his head. "So you think I'm some kind of chosen one? That's crazy." "Perhaps," Nera said. "But right now, you are our best hope." Before Taiho could answer, a loud noise filled the room. Red lights began to flash. A voice spoke in a language Taiho didn't understand. Nera's face showed fear. She pressed something on her wrist, and a small screen appeared in the air. "What's happening?" Taiho asked. "We are being attacked," Nera said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed worry. "The Krav have found us." "The Krav? Who are they?" "Another race from our part of space. They want to take control of all worlds. They have been fighting us for a long time." The ship shook hard. Taiho almost fell down. They must have followed us to Earth, Nara said. I didn't think they would risk coming so far. Two stealth guards ran into the room. They spoke quickly to Nara in their language. She answered, her voice firm. She turned to Taiho. We must leave now. It's not safe here. Taiho followed Nara and the guards out of the big room and down more hallways. The ship kept shaking. Sometimes they had to hold onto the walls to stay up. They reached a small room with seats along the walls. Each seat had straps. Sit here, Nara told Taiho. Strap yourself in. Taiho did as she said. Nara sat next to him and put on her own straps. The guards did the same. Where are we going? Taiho asked. Away from Earth, Nara said. The Krav must not be allowed to reach your planet. They would see humans as a threat because of your imagination. Taiho felt a cold fear. But what about my life? My job? My family? He thought about his parents and his sister. They would wonder where he was. Nara looked at him with sad eyes. I'm sorry, Taiho. There was no time to ask if you wanted to come. The Krav were already close. We had to take you quickly. The ship made a loud noise, and Taiho felt a strong push, like when an airplane takes off but much stronger. The stars outside the small window began to move. We are entering light speed, Nara explained. We will be far from Earth soon. Taiho tried to understand what was happening. Just hours ago, he had been in his apartment in Seoul, watching TV. Now he was on an alien ship, leaving Earth behind, being told he might be the only one who could save an alien race. It was too much. He closed his eyes and tried to breathe slowly. He felt a touch on his hand. He opened his eyes and saw that Nara had placed one of her hands on his. I know this is hard, she said softly, but I believe you were meant to help us. And I promise, if we survive this, we will find a way to return you to Earth. Taiho looked at her hand on his. It was strange, blue and with one extra finger, but the touch was kind. What if I can't help? He asked. What if I'm not what you think I am? Nara squeezed his hand. Then we will still take you home. But please try. Many lives depend on it. The ship suddenly shook hard. Alarms began to sound again. They are still following us, one of the guards said. Nara let go of Taiho's hand and pressed buttons on her seat arm. A screen appeared, showing a red ship behind them. The Krav ship is faster than ours, she said. We cannot outrun them. She looked at Taiho with serious eyes. I must ask you to make a choice now. Taiho Kim, will you help us fight the Krav and save my people, or should we try to get you back to Earth before the battle? Taiho looked at the screen, at the enemy ship coming closer. Then he looked at Nara, at her face full of hope and fear. He thought about his quiet life in Seoul. It had been safe, simple, but also, if he was honest, a little boring. Now he was in space with real aliens, being asked to use his mind in ways he never had before. It was scary. It was crazy. But it was also the most exciting thing that had ever happened to him. Taiho took a deep breath and made his choice. I will help you, Taiho said. The words came out before he could think too much about them. Nara's eyes lit up. Thank you, she said. She pressed a button on her wrist. Junsu, we need to get to the science bay right away. A voice answered from her wrist. Yes, my queen. But the Krav ships are closing in. Then we must fight, Nara said. She looked at Taiho. Come with me to the control room. They left the small room and ran through more hallways. The ship kept shaking. Twice they almost fell when the floor moved under them. They reached a large room filled with stealth people working at strange screens. In the center was a round table that showed a 3D picture of space around them. Taiho could see their ship, colored blue, and 3 red ships coming closer. Report, Nara said as she walked to the table. A tall Stell with darker blue skin stepped forward. 3 Krav battleships, my queen. They will catch us in 10 minutes. Our shields are at 80%. Weapons are ready. Thank you, Junsu, Nera said. She turned to Taiho. This is Junsu, my head soldier and oldest friend. Junsu looked at Taiho with doubt in his eyes. This is the human. He is smaller than I expected. Taiho felt a bit angry at this comment. I may be small, but my brain works fine. Junsu's expression didn't change. We will see. Nera stepped between them. There is no time for this. Junsu, prepare for battle. Taiho, I need you to think. The Krav ships are faster than ours. We cannot run away. But they also have stronger weapons. If we fight directly, we will lose. Taiho looked at the 3D map. The red ships were moving in a straight line toward them. Do you know much about how the Krav think? He asked. They are very orderly, Nera said. They like plans and rules. They do not adapt well to surprises. Taiho nodded slowly, an idea forming in his mind. Can your ship hide? Hide? How? Junsu asked. On Earth, our submarines, ships that go underwater, can hide by being very quiet and blending in with the sea around them. Nera's eyes widened. We have a stealth system, but it uses too much power. We would have to turn off weapons and shields. That's too risky, Junsu said. Wait, Taiho said, getting excited. What if we hide somewhere they wouldn't think to look? Somewhere that seems dangerous. He pointed at the 3D map. Not far from their position was a large purple cloud. What is that? He asked. A gas nebula, Nera said. It has radiation and electrical storms. Ships avoid it. Could we go in there? Taiho asked. Junsu shook his head. It would damage our ship. But would it damage their ships too? Taiho asked. Nera looked thoughtful. Yes, any ship would be damaged in there. But the Krav wouldn't expect you to go somewhere that would hurt your own ship. Taiho finished her thought. They think in straight lines, right? They wouldn't understand why you would hurt yourself to escape them. Junsu looked at the map again. The human has a point. The Krav follow rules. One rule is, never damage your own resources. Nera tapped some buttons on the table. If we redirect power from weapons to shields, we could survive in the nebula for about 20 minutes. The Krav ships would take more damage than us because they are larger. And if they follow us in, they might get stuck, Taiho added. Then you could use the last of your power to get out and escape while they're still inside. Junsu still looked worried. It is risky, my queen. Less risky than fighting 3 Krav ships, Nera said. She put her hand on Junsu's arm. Trust me. And trust Taiho. This is why we brought him, to think in ways we cannot. Junsu bowed his head. As you wish, my queen. Nera turned to the room. Change course to the Duri Nebula. Redirect power from weapons to shields. Prepare for entry in 2 minutes. The room became busy as the Stell people rushed to follow orders. Taiho, Nera said quietly, if this works, you will have saved all our lives. And if it doesn't? He asked. She gave him a small smile. Then we die together, my human. The ship turned sharply. Taiho had to grab the table to stay standing. On the 3D map, he could see they were now heading straight for the purple cloud. The Krav ships are changing course to follow us, Junsu reported. They will reach us just as we enter the nebula. Perfect, Nera said. Let them follow us in. The ship shook hard as something hit it. They're firing on us, Junsu shouted. Shields holding at 75%. Another Stell called out. Nebula entry in 30 seconds. Taiho watched the map as their blue dot got closer and closer to the purple cloud. The red dots were right behind them. 10 seconds to entry. Someone called. Nera grabbed Taiho's hand with one of hers. He squeezed it without thinking. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're in. The ship shook violently. Through the windows, Taiho could see purple gas swirling around them. Flashes of light like lightning shot past. The whole ship made a groaning sound, like it was in pain. Shields at 60% and dropping, Estelle reported. Estimated survival time, 18 minutes. The Krav ships? Nara asked. Jun-Soo checked his screen. All three followed us in. Their shields are dropping faster than ours. First ship at 50%, second at 55%, third at 52%. Tai-Ho felt a moment of hope. His plan was working. The Krav ships were bigger, so they were getting hit harder by the storms in the nebula. Then a huge lightning bolt hit their ship. The lights went out for a second, then came back dimmer than before. Shields at 45%. Someone shouted, "Power systems damage. New estimated survival time, 12 minutes." Nara looked at Tai-Ho with worry in her eyes. "We need another idea, Tai-Ho. Fast." Tai-Ho's mind raced. They needed to get out of the nebula before the Krav ships, but their ship was damaged. How could they? Suddenly, he had it. "Your stealth system," he said. "Can you turn it on now?" "With our shields so low, we would be defenseless," Jun-Soo said. "Exactly," Tai-Ho said. "Turn off the shields, turn on the stealth, and drift through the nebula. The Krav will think we've been destroyed. Then when they leave, we can follow them out." Nara stared at him. "That is crazy. Also brilliant." "My queen, this is too dangerous," Jun-Soo protested. "Without shields, we're dead anyway if we stay like this." Nara cut him off. "Prepare to switch to stealth mode. Shut down all systems except life support and stealth. Send the order to all decks." Jun-Soo didn't look happy, but he nodded and began giving orders. "Everyone hold on to something," Nara announced to the room. "This will be rough." Tai-Ho grabbed a rail along the wall. Nara stood next to him, holding the same rail with two of her hands. "Switching to stealth in 3, 2, 1. Now." The ship went dark. All the screens turned off. The hum of the engines stopped. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the nebula hit them. Without shields, the ship shook harder than ever. Strange sounds came from the walls, like metal being torn. The temperature dropped quickly, and Tai-Ho could see his breath in the air. "Status of the Krav ships." Nara called into the darkness. "Still searching the area where we disappeared." Jun-Soo's voice came back. "They think we exploded." Minutes passed in the cold, dark ship. Tai-Ho's hands hurt from gripping the rail so tightly. Twice, lightning hit the ship directly, and each time Tai-Ho was sure they would die. But somehow, the ship held together. Finally, Jun-Soo spoke again. "The Krav ships are leaving the nebula. They believe we are destroyed." A cheer went up from the stele in the darkroom. "Wait until they are well clear, then bring systems back online," Nara ordered. "Minimum power only. We'll drift out of the nebula slowly." Lights came back on, but dim. Tai-Ho could feel a little heat returning. "You did it, Tai-Ho," Nara said softly. Her star-filled eyes looked at him with something like wonder. "You saved us all." Tai-Ho felt his face get warm. It was just a simple trick. Hide where they wouldn't expect. Simple to you, perhaps, but we would never have thought of it. She put her hand on his shoulder. "This is why we need you." An hour later, they had safely left the nebula. The ship was damaged but flying. The Krav ships were gone, thinking they had won. Nara took Tai-Ho to a new room, a large space filled with strange machines and Stell in white clothes. "This is our science bay," Nara explained. "This is where we study the mind disease." An older Stell with light blue skin approached them. "My queen," he said with a bow. Then he looked at Tai-Ho with interest. "Is this the human?" "Yes, Mun-Hee," Nara said. "This is Tai-Ho Kim. He just saved our ship using his imagination." Mun-Hee examined Tai-Ho closely. "Fascinating. A mind that can create new ideas from nothing." "Not nothing," Tai-Ho said. "I use what I know and then change it." "Show him," Nara told Mun-Hee. The old stele led them to a table. On it lay another stele, not moving. Its eyes were open but empty, staring at nothing. "This is the disease," Munhi said. "The body lives, but the mind is gone. No memories, no self." Tai-Ho looked at the sick stele. "What causes it?" "We don't know," Munhi admitted. "It spreads like a virus, but we can find no actual virus. It's as if something is taking their minds away." Tai-Ho frowned. "Taking, not killing." Munhi tilted his head. "What do you mean?" "Well," Tai-Ho said slowly, "on Earth, when someone steals something, it goes somewhere else. It doesn't just disappear." Nara and Munhi looked at each other. "We never thought." Nara began. "Where would the minds go?" Munhi asked, sounding excited for the first time. Tai-Ho looked at the sick stele again. A crazy idea was forming in his mind. An impossible idea that no stele would ever think of. "What if," he said, "someone is collecting them?" "Collecting minds?" Munhi repeated. The old stele looked confused. But who would do such a thing? And how? Tai-Ho shook his head. "I don't know. It's just a guess. But if the minds are being taken and not just destroyed, maybe we can get them back." Nara's eyes lit up. "Tai-Ho, you may be right." Munhi, "Have we ever looked for the minds outside the bodies?" "No, my queen," Munhi admitted. "We always thought the disease destroyed the minds." "Because that's what you could see," Tai-Ho said. "But sometimes the truth is what you can't see." For the next 3 days, Tai-Ho worked with Munhi and other stele scientists. They tested his idea in many ways. They scanned the empty minds of 6 stele. They looked for strange energy in the air around them. They checked for hidden signals going to or from their planet. Tai-Ho was amazed by the stele technology. They had machines that could see inside a brain and show each thought as a different color. They had computers that could read minds. But none of these tools had helped them find a cure, because they hadn't been looking in the right places. On the 4th day, Tai-Ho had another idea. "What if we try to follow a mind as it's being taken?" he suggested. "Is there a way to watch someone as they get sick?" Munhi nodded slowly. "Yes, we have recordings of people getting sick. We use them to study how the disease works." "Can I see one?" Tai-Ho asked. Munhi set up a screen and played a recording. Tai-Ho watched as a healthy stele was working at a desk. Suddenly, the stele stopped moving. Its eyes went wide, then empty. In just seconds, it went from normal to sick. "Play it again, but slower," Tai-Ho said. They watched it again, much slower this time. Tai-Ho saw something strange. "What's that?" he asked, pointing to a small flash of light that appeared near the stele's head just before it got sick. Munhi looked surprised. "I never noticed that before. Let me enhance it." He made the image bigger and clearer. Now they could all see it. A tiny ball of blue light that appeared for just a split second. "Can your machines tell what that light is?" Tai-Ho asked. Munhi ran some tests. "It's some kind of energy. Not from our world." "Not from our world," Nara repeated. "You mean alien?" "Yes, my queen," Munhi said. "This energy doesn't match anything in our records." Tai-Ho thought hard. What if it's a portal? A door to somewhere else? The stele looked at him. "A portal that takes the minds?" Nara asked. "But who would make such a thing? And why?" Before anyone could answer, Jumsu rushed into the room. "My queen, we found something strange near our home planet." They all followed Jumsu to the control room. On the 3D map, they could see a large object floating in space near the stele planet. "What is that?" Tai-Ho asked. "We don't know," Jumsu said. "It just appeared there. It's not stele or Krav." Nara studied the object. "How big is it?" "About the size of a small moon," Jumsu said. "And it's sending out energy pulses toward our planet. The pulses match the timing of new disease cases. Tai-ho felt his heart beat faster. That's it. That's where the mines are going. We need to get closer, Nera decided. Jun-Su set course for home. Maximum speed. The journey to the Stell planet took 2 weeks. During that time, Tai-ho kept working with Mun-Hee. They studied the blue light more carefully and found that it was a type of energy that could carry information, like a mind. So this thing is taking your people's minds through these energy portals, Tai-ho explained to Nera one evening as they ate dinner in her private room. But we still don't know why. Nera looked worried. Whatever it is, it's killing my people. We have to stop it. When they finally reached the Stell planet, they could see the strange object clearly. It was a huge black sphere with a smooth surface. No lights, no windows, no signs of life. Scan it, Nera ordered. The surface is made of an unknown metal, Estelle reported. We can't see inside, but there's a lot of energy coming from it, the same kind we saw in the recordings. And look at this, Jun-Su added. The sphere is sending those energy beams to our planet every few minutes. Each time, someone new gets sick. Tai-ho studied the sphere. We need to get inside it. How? Jun-Su asked. We can't even scan through its walls. Tai-ho thought for a moment. What if we ride one of the energy beams back to its source? When it sends out a beam to take a mind, we follow it back. That's impossible, Jun-Su said. The beams move at light speed. Not for our fastest ship, Nera said. The Royal Flyer can match light speed for short distances, but it's a one-person ship, Jun-Su reminded her. Then I'll go alone, Nera said. No, Tai-ho and Jun-Su both said at the same time. You can't, my queen, Jun-Su said. It's too dangerous. And we need your mind here, Tai-ho added. If something goes wrong, you need to lead your people. Then who will go? Nera asked. Tai-ho took a deep breath. I will. Everyone turned to look at him. No, Nera said. You're too valuable, Tai-ho. And you don't know how to fly our ships. I can learn, Tai-ho said. And it has to be me. This whole thing started because you needed human imagination. What better place to use it than inside that sphere? Jun-Su surprised everyone by saying, He's right, my queen. The human should go, but not alone. I will go with him. Nera looked at them both for a long time. Finally, she nodded. Very well. Prepare the Royal Flyer for 2 people. You leave in 1 hour. An hour later, Tai-ho found himself sitting in a small ship next to Jun-Su. The ship was just big enough for 2 seats and not much else. Are you scared? Jun-Su asked as they prepared to launch. Yes, Tai-ho admitted. Aren't you? Of course, Jun-Su said. Only fools feel no fear. They watched as another energy beam shot out from the black sphere toward the planet. Get ready, Jun-Su said. The next beam should come in about 3 minutes. We'll launch as soon as we see it and follow it back to the source. Those 3 minutes felt like 3 hours to Tai-ho. His hands were sweating. His heart was beating fast. He was about to fly into a mysterious alien object that might be stealing minds. It was the craziest thing he had ever done. There it is, Jun-Su shouted as another blue beam shot out. Launching now. The small ship took off so fast that Tai-ho felt like his body was being pushed into the seat. They raced after the blue beam, going faster and faster until the stars became streaks of light. We're matching its speed, Jun-Su said. Get ready for contact with the sphere. Tai-ho closed his eyes as they reached the sphere. He expected a crash, but instead, he felt a strange tingling all over his body. When he opened his eyes, they were inside a huge space. The inside of the sphere was hollow and filled with blue light. Floating in the air were thousands, no, millions, of small glowing orbs. The mines, Tai-ho whispered. All the stolen mines. Jun-Su landed the ship on a platform in the center of the space. They got out carefully, looking around in wonder. But who built this? Junsu asked. And why take our minds? As if in answer to his question, a figure appeared before them. It wasn't solid but made of the same blue energy as the orbs. It had a shape like a stele, but taller and thinner. "Welcome," the figure said. Its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I have been waiting for you." "Who are you?" Taiho asked. "Why are you taking the stele mines?" "I am the collector," the figure said. "I gather consciousness to save it." "Save it from what?" Junsu demanded. "From the end," the collector said. "This universe is dying. Soon, all life will end. I am preserving what matters most: the minds, the thoughts, the experiences of sentient beings." Taiho frowned. "But you're hurting them. You're taking them from their bodies, from their lives." "A necessary sacrifice," the collector said. "In my collection, they will live forever." "But they're not living," Taiho argued. "They're just stored. That's not life." The collector tilted its head. "What is this? You are not stele. Your mind works differently." "I'm human," Taiho said. "From Earth. Human." The collector moved closer to Taiho. "I have not collected any humans yet. Your minds are unusual. We like to keep our minds in our own heads," Taiho said firmly. "And I think the stele do too. You need to give them back." "Impossible," the collector said. "The universe will end. All will be lost." "When?" Taiho asked. "When will the universe end?" "In approximately 1 billion years," the collector said. Taiho almost laughed. 1 billion years. That's a long time. The stele could live their lives many times over before then. You're solving a problem that won't happen for 1 billion years by hurting people now. The collector was silent for a moment. "You suggest I should wait." "I suggest you should ask," Taiho said. "Don't take minds by force. Let people choose if they want to be saved by you, and only when their natural lives are over." The collector floated back and forth, as if thinking. "Choice. I have not considered choice. It is inefficient." "But it's right," Taiho said. "Let the stele choose their own fate, and return the minds you've taken." For a long time, the collector didn't speak. Then, slowly, it nodded. "Your argument has merit, human. I will return the collected stele minds. And I will wait. When the end is closer, I will offer my preservation to those who wish it." The blue orbs around them began to move, flowing out of the sphere like a river of light. "They are returning to their bodies," the collector said. "It will take time for them to fully reconnect." Taiho felt a huge wave of relief. He looked at Junsu, who was watching the orbs with tears in his eyes. "Thank you," Junsu said to Taiho. "My brother was one of the first to get sick. Now he will return." Back on the stealth ship, Nera was waiting for them. When Taiho told her what had happened, she could hardly believe it. "You convinced this collector to give our people back with just words?" she asked. "No weapons, no tricks. Sometimes talking is all you need," Taiho said. "The collector wasn't evil. It was just trying to help in the wrong way." "This is why we needed you," Nera said. "No stele would have thought to simply talk to it." Reports soon came in from the planet. People were waking up all over. The sick were becoming healthy again. Families were reunited. The stele civilization was saved. 2 days later, Taiho stood with Nera on the observation deck of her ship, looking down at the beautiful stele planet. "It's time for me to go home," Taiho said. "My family must be worried about me." Nera nodded sadly. "Of course. We will take you back to Earth." She paused. "But perhaps you might visit us again. There is still much your imagination could teach us." Taiho smiled. "I'd like that. And maybe some stele could visit Earth too. Our people could learn from each other." "A human stele friendship," Nera said. "It would be the first of its kind." She reached out and took his hand in hers. "You have saved my people, Taiho Kim. We will never forget what you did for us." "I just talked to the collector," Taiho said modestly. anyone could have done that. No, Nara said. Only a human could have done it. Only you. She leaned down and hugged him again, just as she had when they first met. This time, Taiho hugged her back. My human, she whispered. My wonderful, imaginative human. And Taiho knew that while he was going home, this was just the beginning of a much bigger adventure.